What's good, Jets Nation? Salute to everybody tuning in on this episode of Jets Roundtable, sponsored by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We got some training camp updates. This is the last day, last practice of training camp. So we got some updates for you. Got some sound from AG, got some sound from Frank Wright, got some sound from Geno Smith as well. We're going to talk about why these updates give us things to expect for the upcoming 2026 season. So make sure you guys hit that like button, and if you're new, subscribe to the channel, man. But thanks for everybody for tuning in. Try not to make this episode a little too long. I'm gonna try not to do that, but I have a lot of information for you that we need to get to. But first off, we're going to start off with the breaking news of the day, which is surrounding the kicker position, man, because Jason Sanders is officially the kicker going into the 2026 season. Now, when I first heard about this news, I don't know if you guys saw the video earlier that I dropped on YouTube, but when I first heard this news, I was a little concerned because Jason Sanders didn't have the greatest practice yesterday. I do believe he went 2 for 5. Missing like a 38-yarder, a 53-yarder, and a 50-plus yarder. But Cade York had a worse practice. So I'm pretty sure that's the reason why he was cut, while he made one more field goal than Jason Sanders yesterday. I heard he missed terribly, and the Jets made their decision, as you see here, reported by Rich Samini, that special teams coach Chris Banjo says that Jason Sanders has won the job at place kicker, and Cade York has been waived. And Banjo says he feels really good about where Jason is and cites his experience in the AFC East as a positive. And when I did my research on Jason Sanders, actually, you kind of find out that he's pretty much a reliable kicker. Now, it's hard for Jets fans to hear that. We all loved Nick Folk. It was really hard for us to see the Jets not re-sign Nick Folk, and Nick Folk had pretty much one of the most consistent seasons that you would see from a kicker. But Jason Sanders isn't bad himself. Now, Jason Sanders is around 85% field goal percentage, as much as he makes. Extra points is around 96%. His career long is 57 yards, so he can be pretty reliable. The main question surrounding Jason Sanders is going to be his health. Well, he was hurt for all of 2025, but in 2024, Jason Sanders actually had his best season with the Miami Dolphins, which is why Chris Banjo says that he has familiarity as a kicker in the AFC East, and that's something that the Jets are going actually to need if the Jets feel like they are a contender in the AFC East. And if there's one guy that I do kind of trust, despite how I feel about the kicker position, maybe the Jets should go get another kicker. You know, I'm hearing, take a look at the Colts situation. They have a couple of kickers on there that are reliable that maybe the Jets can have a chance to look at when that position battle wraps up. But if Chris Banjo is okay with Jason Sanders being the kicker, I feel like we deserve to give Chris Banjo the benefit of the doubt, especially with the special teams being the best side of the ball in the 2025 season. So you guys sound off in the comments. Let me know if you're okay with Jason Sanders being the kicker, man, on this episode of Jets Roundtable, sponsored by Prize Picks. But let's go ahead and get into training camp, because like I said, man, this is the last day of practice in training camp. I do believe the Jets play the New York Giants. Can't remember the day. Can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday, but the last preseason game is always in between the Jets and the Giants. Not really sure what starters are going to play and who isn't going to play, but they had their last practice today, and I think it tells us a lot about what you saw on that thumbnail of how it relates to our guy, G5, Garrett Wilson. But let's go ahead and go over the updates from training camp, actually, and it's a lot. Usually I pull them up separately, but we're just going to go through the list. And a guy that's been super clutch to giving us information on everything going on around the New York Jets, especially what's going on in the building or on that practice field, has been Zach Rosenblatt. So salute to him. He gave us pretty much the updates, and we're going to go through this in order. When it comes to the injury front, the injury updates, Kenyon Sadiq has been around the offense for the past couple of practices. Yesterday, he arrived with the offense. Today, he was around with the offense. Didn't do drills with them either day, but him having his helmet and him being around the offense is kind of giving us signs potentially that Kenyon Sadiq should be ready for week one. I know Aaron Glenn has given us a timetable for guys like Kenyon Sadiq, for guys like Breece Hall, who was actually seen running full speed in practice yesterday, and as well as Isaiah Davis and D'Angelo Ponds. D'Angelo Ponds may be a little bit of a concern. Haven't heard too much about his progression when it comes to his injury. So maybe we need to be concerned about D'Angelo Ponds. But as far as Isaiah Davis, as far as Kenyon Sadiq, and as far as Breece Hall, it does look like they will be available in week one as Aaron Glenn provided that timeline. Now, this is where we get into what's going on and how this affects Garrett Wilson. Now, let's start with the defense first, because I want to start with the defense because the defense is going to keep the points at a minimum for the offense to not have to play catch up all the time, something that we saw in the 2024 season. And I actually want to pull up this depth chart. Shout out to our guy, Matt O'Leary, who projected a depth chart on his IG, and I think he did an excellent job, had an excellent breakdown. When he breaks down the defense seems like it should be a lot better than it was last season. Now, some concerns that I do have are going to be surrounding the cornerback spot, because Brandon Stephens, Jets fans probably don't want to hear this, but Brandon Stephens is their number one cornerback on their depth chart, according to Matt O'Leary, how he feels like the projection for the depth chart is going to be. We've seen Brandon Stephens. He hasn't been great last season. Maybe the Jets see something in Brandon Stephens during the course of this practice. Haven't really heard that he looks terrible out there, that he's getting burned on these plays. It seems like Brandon Stephens has been pretty much solid at the number one spot on the cornerback depth chart. A.Z. Thomas was a surprise to me being number two. He was injured for most of last season, but there's been massive potential around what A.Z. Thomas can do. AG believes in him. Darren Muji believes in him. And according to Matt O'Leary, it seems like A.Z. Thomas will be number two on that cornerback depth chart. Then they go into guys like Nashawn Wright, Jarvis Brownlee. We already pointed out D'Angelo Ponds' injury may be a little bit of a concern. Haven't heard too much noise about him. But my concern or my worry or things that we need to watch, I think that's a better explanation. The things that we need to watch would be the cornerback room. And the second position that we probably need to be focused on, or maybe a little bit of worry, would be the linebacker core. They know we have Demario Davis, but Demario Davis is 37 years old. We've done multiple videos about Demario Davis on this channel. Regardless of how old he is, Demario Davis is still able to lay some helmet. He's still able to get some tackles. It doesn't seem like even at 37 years old, Demario Davis is slowing down at all. So I don't really have too much of a concern from Demario Davis. I think Demario Davis' impact should be his leadership on this linebacker core. So while we have questions around the talent or what could be the possible production of the linebacker core, maybe that's why the Jets brought in Demario Davis to teach guys like Jermaine Sherwood, to teach guys like Kiko, to teach guys like Mikael Walker, to teach guys like McCrory Ball. Maybe having a veteran, a solid leader like Demario Davis will help this linebacker core, this linebacker room, but not only help them, but overall help the Jets defense. I made this point in a video that I did yesterday about how the NFL may be sleeping on this Jets defense. When we looked at the preseason game, the first preseason game in between the Jets and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no matter what unit, second unit, first unit, second unit, third unit, it seemed like the Buccaneers were able to drive on the Jets defense at any point. In the second game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Jets held them scoreless. Now, I know the comments are going to go crazy. It's only a preseason game. You can't take much out of that. Look, training camp is about watching your team and seeing if there's any progression, seeing if they're getting better week by week, especially because we can't take too much out of preseason games. We can't make realistic predictions or projections of what this defense is going to look like, what ranking in the league they're going to look like. We can't do that from preseason until games actually start, until real game plans, complex game plans actually start in the regular season. But what we use the preseason for is to gauge to see if this team is getting better. Now, when it comes to the preseason games, like in the second game, like I said, they held the Steelers scoreless in all three units. We have to remember too, the thing we can take away from that is that Mike McCarthy is the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, while it's probably vanilla plays on the offense, he's not going to unleash his bag so people could scout for him. We get that. But for the Jets to show progression of not giving up over 20 points, regardless of what unit is on the field, kind of shows us that this Jets defense is getting better, and that's why I'm bringing up Demario Davis, is because those are the guys you want to bring to your team, regardless of how old he is. If that leadership ability is there, that's the guy you want to help assist the progression of this team going into the regular season, and we saw that. And as well as, I know that Andre Cisco had an interception, Samuel Womack had an interception, Nate Lynn popped off the screen with 2 sacks, David Bailey was able to get his first sack of the preseason. We'll talk about David Bailey in a minute. Make sure you guys stay tuned on this episode of Jets Roundtable, sponsored by Prize Picks. But Demario Davis was kind of like an unsung hero to me in that second game, because when the Steelers seemed to gain momentum running the ball, even though he only had 2 tackles, they were like drive-stopping tackles from Demario Davis. So you pair his production, we're able to stop the bleeding on the Jets defense, especially at that linebacker position. You tie that into his leadership, we're starting to see a progression of the Jets defense. So when it comes to the linebacker core, you guys sound off in the comments. We talked about kicker, we talked about the cornerback room, and we talked about the linebacker room. Let me know so far how you guys are feeling, what your confidence level is like from everything that you've seen and everything that you've heard during the course of this training camp. Now we'll get back into the depth chart. Actually, let me go ahead and pull this back up. We'll get back into the depth chart. The safety position, he has Minkah Fitzpatrick as the starter, of course, another leader on that defense that should be able to help out. Minkah Fitzpatrick actually had a press conference yesterday where he cited that the Jets know who they are. The defense knows who they are. They know their identity. Now all it's about for this Jets defense is working on the little things, working on the schematics of things. So having leaders like Demario Davis and Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think, are going to be super beneficial to the New York Jets in 2026. He actually has Dane Belton as the second safety. There's a little bit of I don't want to say a concern, but there's clearly been a battle in between Dane Belton and Andre Cisco for that second safety spot. You guys sound off in the comments to let me know who's gonna win that battle. Me, I'm a big Dane Belton fan. I know he can crack. I know he can cover that side of the field. Andre Cisco's kind of been a question mark for the New York Jets over the past couple of seasons and hasn't been one of Jets fans' favorite players to talk about. But him getting an interception in that second preseason game, him showing that he does have a ball hawk ability, I do believe helps Andre Cisco in this depth chart. So there's going to be a battle in between Dane Belton and Andre Cisco to figure out who's going to be the second safety starter for this New York Jets team. And we already talked about kicker when it comes to Jason Sanders. But you guys sound off in the comments. Let me know how you guys feel about that depth chart. Matt O'Leary was dead on with kicker. This was posted, I do believe, yesterday. So he was dead on. So if you're looking at this depth chart and having questions, Matt O'Leary was actually right. Sorry about that. My computer's been tripping. But you guys sound off in the comments. Want to do some shout outs real quick to people that are currently in the chat. Shout out to our guy, New York Nick J.U. Bozo. Agrees with me with Dane Belton. Said Dane is more physical. I love Dane Belton. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a Dane Belton fan. But if Andre Cisco can show that he is a ball hawk and he can cover I like him too. Like, it's going to be interesting to see where Aaron Glenn uses Minkah Fitzpatrick. I've always thought that Minkah Fitzpatrick will kind of play not like a linebacker role, but closer to the box, not so much in coverage. And maybe that's why Andre Cisco may get the nod, because Dane Belton kind of does the same things that Minkah Fitzpatrick can do. So maybe that's why they'll lean toward Andre Cisco. But it'll be interesting to see what the Jets do there. Salute to our guy, New York Nick Jets, you bozo, for tuning in. And shout out to my guy, Charles Harrison, says, greetings, Jets Kingdom. Brandon Stevens has improved, but I can't say he is ready for the Pro Bowl. A.Z. Thomas has to prove he belongs like a number 1B. Agree about the linebackers position. Salute to my guy, Charles, man. He's been all over Jets Post. So salute to him for being a supporter of the New York Jets and Jets Roundtable, man. But getting back into the video, let's get into the offense, because I think this is where we talk about our guy, Garrett Wilson. And what I was saying about Zach Blatt is I think his updates today, his updates kind of make my point for me, or they lead up to my point. So another defensive player, that I want to talk about is David Bailey. I don't know how I can forget about the number 2 draft pick in David Bailey. Look, guys, I'm going to be real with you. Everything that I've heard and everything I've seen about David Bailey, he looks like he's going to be exactly what the New York Jets thought when it comes to drafting him at number 2, especially over Arvell Reese. Some people had an issue with that. So now what I want to do is I want to play some sound for you from Aaron Glenn, who talked about how difficult it was for the New York Jets to actually choose David Bailey over Arvell Reese, man. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you so we can hear what AG has to say, man.
Jets Giants is going to start 10 years of David Bailey and Arvell Reese. If you could go back to that decision for a second, how difficult was that decision? How did you end up finally?
Decision of what?
David Bailey and Arvell Reese on draft.
Listen, we have our process, and listen, those are 2 really, really good players, really, and they're going to be really good players in this league. So the thing is, we want to make sure we make the best decision for us going forward, and we felt like Bailey was the best decision. Listen, Arvell's a special player, and he's going to do special things in this league. Listen, we like the direction that we went, and Bailey's going to be a good player for us.
So you guys sound off in the comments. Let me know if you agree with Aaron Glenn that either way, like, I honestly believe either way, Arvell Reese is going to be a player that we talk about going down the line, and David Bailey is going to be a player that we talk about going down the line as well. And I do believe that both players are going to be special, and they'll always be tied together, especially with the Jets and New York and the Giants being in New York. They'll forever be tied together, especially with how they were drafted. But when it comes to David Bailey, it looks like he's exactly what the New York Jets were hoping they would get. Even when you watch these preseason games, you can tell the respect is there. He got his first sack in the second game, but even in the first game, he popped off the screen to me because I noticed they double team him. So even though the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had familiarity with the New York Jets because they had joint practices together. They know exactly who David Bailey is, and they double teamed him most of the game. The same thing happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm pretty sure they saw tape from that preseason game. The same thing I saw with David Bailey, his speed, his agility, his power, all of that pops off the screen. So when we take this defense and we wrap up everything that we've seen from training camp, we've seen the Jets defense be porous in 2025. Aaron Glenn is now calling this defense. He's brought his guys into the building. He's brought in vets like Demario Davis, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Kingsley Anagbare, David Onyemata, brought in Tavondre Sweat, who I'm hearing is now healthy to clog up that middle, not replacing, because I don't think you can replace a talent like Quinnen Williams, but replacing that massive gap that the New York Jets had in their defensive line, which I think is the best position group out of the defense. You guys sound off in the comments. Let me know if you agree. I think that's the most dominant position in the defense with the depth that they have, along with number 2 draft pick in David Bailey. This defense should be a lot better in 2026. So you guys sound off in the comments. Let me know your confidence level in the New York Jets defense going in 2026. But before we get into the offense, you guys already know we got to pay some bills. So shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. New users got a deal for you. Now, I can't use it. I'm a Prize Picks veteran, but all my new users can't say Jets Roundtable didn't do nothing for you. Download the app, use code HMA. You play $5, and if your lineup wins, you get $150. It's a deal that you can't miss. It's available in all 50 states. Super easy to use. All you have to do is pick more or less on a few player and team props. Even give it to your kid and let your kid make some predictions for you. But if you know your football, you could possibly run up a bag with Prize Picks. Just make sure you play responsibly. Shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Now, getting back into the training camp updates, now we get to the thing that everybody, I'm sure, is here to see, is how this offense has progressed and how it relates to Garrett Wilson, man. Let's just go ahead and look at these training camp updates because they tell the story for me. We're looking at Mason Taylor. Shout out to our guy, Richie, who predicted that Mason Taylor would be big time for the New York Jets. During the course of this preseason, we've seen Mason Taylor be like a security blanket for Cade Klubnik, for Geno Smith. Nice possession tight end who also has big play ability. Showed it in practice today. Mason Taylor, Moss, veteran now. Minka Fitzpatrick in a 7-on-7 incredible catch. Taylor has been coming on strongly lately. So when we look at the tight end room, they have Mason Taylor. We're seeing growth from Mason Taylor. Didn't see too much of him last season, especially because he was hurt here and there. So didn't really see too much of what he can do. We're now starting to see some potential from Mason Taylor. We haven't even seen what Kenyon Sadiq can do yet. We know Kenyon Sadiq is an athletic freak. The person the New York Jets picked number 15 in this year's draft that surprised pretty much everybody. I said watch out for him, but I didn't think they would pick him at 15, and the Jets did that. That shows you how much they see in Kenyon Sadiq's talent. We haven't even really seen too much of Amari Cooper Jr. either, who has amazing upside, who I actually thought was going to get the second spot in the wide receiver depth chart. But has everybody heard about A.D. Mitchell? I have my doubts about A.D. Mitchell. I fully admit it. A.D. Mitchell has been an absolute monster this preseason. The route running, the speed, the big play ability. It looks like Garrett Wilson and the New York Jets now have a legit wide receiver duo. So now you're talking about Mason Taylor, you're talking about Kenyon Sadiq, you're talking about A.D. Mitchell. We're here. This connection in between Geno Smith and A.D. Mitchell is buzzing today, where Geno Smith hit him a few times, including now a deep ball with Mitchell going up and getting it against Brandon Stevens, their #1 corner. Maybe this is a concern for some people. I don't know. But this just speaks to the progression of A.D. Mitchell, man, and how good A.D. Mitchell actually has been during the course of this preseason. I'm starting to think that you guys see where I'm going with this. I think you guys are starting to see. Let's get back into some training camp updates just to see what everybody else did on the offensive end. When it comes to the running back position, I already talked about how we saw Breece Hall running sprints yesterday. Breece Hall looks like he's going to be just fine for week 1. Braylon Allen was hurt all last year. Braylon Allen is now back and healthy, and we're even seeing Frank Wright and his offense utilize Braylon Allen in the passing game as well Today, Geno Smith hit Braylon Allen for a touchdown pass against Will McDonald in coverage. It's Will McDonald in coverage, okay. But McDonald tried going up to break up the pass and misjudged it. Easy catch and score from Braylon Allen. And we saw in the preseason that Braylon Allen has big playability. We went over the wide receivers. You got Garrett Wilson. Of course, you have A.D. Mitchell to help him. You have Omar Cooper Jr. You have Braylon Allen out the backfield. We know Breece Hall can be effective out the backfield as well in the passing game. We talked about the tight end room. You have Mason Taylor. You have Kenyon Sadiq, hopefully. Jelani Woods has shown that he has big playability as well. Geno Smith on his perfect drive in game 2 in the preseason against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's who the touchdown went to. The hysteria around Cade Klubnik, where Geno Smith struggled in practice and Cade Klubnik went like 5 for 5 or 7 for 7 with a couple of touchdowns. Jelani Woods was another person that the New York that caught a touchdown in that practice. So Jelani Woods has been showing some upside as well. Let me go ahead and pull up Matt O'Leary's depth chart on the offensive side so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about as well. We'll get into Geno Smith in a second, but we see the running back position. Talked about Breece Hall, talked about Braylon Allen. Isaiah Davis on the mend, should be on his way back as well, ready for week 1. We talked about the wide receiver core, Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, Omar Cooper, Arian Smith, kind of a question mark to me. Tim Patrick, I think Tim Patrick will be underrated. Another vet that Garrett Wilson himself said can teach this young core of how to win, bringing the winning mentality to the New York Jets. I'd look out for him. This tight end, and we haven't even talked about Jeremy Ruckert. We know he can be reliable as well. And the offensive line needs to stay healthy. That's the big key here. If the offensive line stays healthy, they have the potential to be a top 10 offensive line in the league. And I'm about to show you why. Shout out to our guy, Matt O'Leary, for the depth charts. But the offensive line needs to stay healthy. Let me show you why. There was a tweet today. Cade Klubnik was in absolute hell from judging by this tweet. It says, by his count from Zach Rosenblatt, the Jets' backup O-line has allowed 5 sacks today with Cade Klubnik as quarterback. Now, could it be that it was Cade Klubnik's timing? Really not too sure. All right, he didn't go into detail. But if the offensive line, timing or not, if the backup offensive line is allowing 5 sacks in practice, to me that symbols warning signs. My red flags are going off. This starting offensive line needs to be healthy for the Jets to be successful. And that gets to the quarterback, Geno Smith. Like I pointed out, perfect drive in the second preseason game. Kind of heard through camp, Geno could be kind of inconsistent. We all know who Geno Smith is. Strong arm, risk taker, gunslinger, but will move the ball down the field. The last thing you want is for a couple of pieces on this O-line to go down, and they got to figure out backup spots and try to fill in holes on this offensive line. And then Geno Smith is being pressured the same way that Cade Klubnik was pressured today at practice. That's when the mistakes are made. That's when the turnovers come. We saw that with the Raiders last year. But the last thing the Jets need is for this O-line to not be healthy. So hopefully this O-line can stay healthy, especially with this report coming out of practice today. You guys sound off in the comments. Let me know how you feel about where I'm going. How do you feel? What's your confidence level when it comes to these additions that the New York Jets made on the offensive side of the ball, man? And the theme for the whole training camp has just been getting better. And we talked about quarterback Geno Smith. This is Geno Smith showing his leadership ability as well. Something that Garrett Wilson has mentioned. Something that A.D. Mitchell has mentioned. Something that even Demario Davis, even though he's on the other side of the field, something that he's mentioned as well. Let's hear what Geno Smith said about the progression of the New York Jets in training camp, man. Let me go ahead and pull this up so we can hear what our guy, starting cornerback, Geno Smith, has to say, man.
Last practice at camp, can you talk about how far you guys have come since day one? Oh man, I didn't even know that. But yeah, we've come a long way since we started, but we've still got so far to go, and very appreciative of just the hard work that everyone's put in, and the amount of attention that guys are paying in meetings and just on the field. I think we're getting better as an offense, as a team, but like I said, we've got a long ways to go, and we got to keep working.
That's exactly what you want to hear from your starting quarterback, man. Only thing we focused on week to week is getting better. And I know people in the comments going to be like, well, that's what every team does. Why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because we've seen what the Jets have looked like over the past couple of seasons. We've seen the distractions. We've seen the ineptitude. We've seen it all. That's exactly what you want to hear from your starting quarterback, especially the results that we've seen on tape from this team. And even when it comes to Geno Smith, let's talk about his leadership ability. Like I just mentioned, Geno Smith in another video talking about what leadership means to him. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what Geno Smith got to say, man.
A lot of guys that we've talked to throughout the summer, throughout camp, have talked about how you've shown leadership. And as a quarterback, I'm sure you've always thought of yourself as a leader of the team, but how has it evolved? Like, that might be a complicated answer, but over the years, if you look back now at how you were then, how have you evolved as a leader?
Overall, I think leadership starts with integrity. And I think in order to lead others, you got to lead yourself first. And so I'm a guy who never misses a rep. I'm a guy who likes to be early and stay late and do all the little things that it takes to be prepared. I think leadership comes with preparation. When guys know that you're prepared, they don't mind following you. And I never once said, hey, I'm the leader. I don't believe that's my place. I think I lead by example. I lead through my play. And then I want those guys to feel me in the huddle. I want them to feel my passion and feel just how bad I want to win, every single day, every single rep. I really love to compete. That's something I love the most. And I think my teammates appreciate that. And I let them talk about all the other stuff, but I just try to stay focused on what I need to do.
Now, if you've been watching this channel, I've been heavily critical of Geno Smith and my reservations about him. I will be the first one to tell you that this quote from Geno Smith makes me fall in love with the prospect of him being the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. My one concern, my only concern, has been Geno Smith. How mature is he? Like, even though the Raiders situation wasn't his fault, and, Geno Smith has been in the league for a very long time, and he's been in a lot of tough situations, went a few years where he didn't even touch the football, got to the Seattle Seahawks, had a great situation for him, went absolutely crazy, 4,000-yard seasons, amazing touchdown to interception ratio, all of that. Geno Smith turned out to be the quarterback that the New York Jets thought they were getting when they drafted him way back in 2020, 2012, 2013, whatever. My biggest question about Geno Smith was his maturity level. And when he first got here with the traffic tickets, and even though I don't blame him for his personal business that came out, I don't need to spew that again. I don't blame him for that, all right? What I blamed him for was, the stuff that the New York Jets have been through when you got here. The type of approach that Aaron Glenn wants around his team, especially all the noise around the New York Jets after the Aaron Rodgers situation. And you don't want your quarterback in the news for anything other than football. And Geno Smith, for whatever reason, found himself in the headlines with off-the-field drama, which then raised some red flags for who I thought Geno Smith could be. You tie that in with everything that we were hearing about how much the Jets love Cade Klubnik, which then brought up the subject of, hey, if Geno Smith is stinking it up in practice and it doesn't look like his maturity is there, should the Jets actually take a look at Cade Klubnik and, start thinking about their future? Quotes like this calm me down, especially to play after what we saw in the preseason game. I think Geno Smith is going to be just fine for the New York Jets. When I hear quotes like this, let me get this off the screen so we could talk real quick. Shout out to everybody tuning in, man. When I hear quotes like this from Geno Smith, this is where the maturity shows. This is where when the New York Jets signed him, when he was like, hey, I've learned a lot. over the course of my career. I've learned from my mistakes. I hear accountability in quotes like this. Regardless of how Geno Smith plays, that's TBD. All right? Regardless of how you feel about him, this is the stuff that makes me confident in this offense going forward with Geno Smith as the quarterback, whether he's a bridge or whether the New York Jets really like him and the Jets are able to win an amount of games with him to make them want to re-sign him for another year. I don't think this changes plans for the 2027 season. I think most of those plans surround around how the New York Jets feel about Cade Klubnik actually when it comes to 2027 and not so much Geno Smith. But as far as 2026 is concerned, after this last practice and training camp going into the 2026 season, looks like the New York Jets are in good hands with Geno Smith, man. You guys sound off in the comments. Let me know how you feel about Geno Smith being a starting quarterback this season. What's your confidence level with Geno Smith being a quarterback this year? My opinion, man, he's even changed my mind. And I've been one of the biggest people raising their red flags about Geno Smith being the quarterback of the New York Jets. I really am. I really am. Shout out to everybody tuning in. But let's get to our guy. Let's give Geno Smith some more love, right? Let's give Geno Smith some more love because a guy that I think is really going to be pivotal to the change around the New York Jets is offensive coordinator Frank Reich. We've already heard about him using the running backs out of the backfield, something that I never could figure out. Why Tanner Engstrand didn't use Breece Hall out of the backfield. It was mind-blowing to me why he didn't do that. Why the plays look super simplistic. It didn't look like he was calling plays towards players' strengths. Frank Reich seems like he's going to be the guy to do that. And judging from everything that we saw this preseason, the Jets' offense looked effective even with Cade Klubnik being in there. I think all of that ties to Frank Reich, to be perfectly honest with you. So let's get into how offensive coordinator Frank Reich feels about Geno Smith being the starting quarterback for the New York Jets, man. And then I'll get to some comments.
Yeah, I mean, man, listen, I don't want to overstate it. I've already said a lot. Everything I said is even more true than I even thought it was. He is dialed in, not only mentally as far as how smart he is and how much he understands football and the big scope of things, but what I said the last time about his laser-like focus, but it's just this mindset. It's just his mindset, the way he comes to practice. Like he just comes to practice and to get better. He just comes to practice every day to get better, and I just think the team feeds off of it. Man.
So even Frank Reich sees the impact that Geno Smith has on this offense. And that's big coming from Frank Reich. Like, if you know Frank Reich's history, you know it's big for him to trust another quarterback after Andrew Luck. After Bryce, the quarterback in the Panthers. I'm sorry, it's my son's favorite team, and I still forgot his last name. But the quarterback that's in the Carolina Panthers, where Frank Reich couldn't figure it out with him, ended up costing Frank Reich his job, and he didn't even want him like that. He didn't want him. So for Frank Reich to speak this glowingly about Geno Smith, because I know a lot of the pressure is on Aaron Glenn and what Aaron Glenn's future is going to be with the New York Jets. Like, I get it. But the pressure goes around this coaching staff. Frank Reich wants another head coaching job. For him to take a chance on the New York Jets, for as abysmal as we've seen their offense was last season, you could place the blame on Tanner Engstrand, Justin Fields, whatever. We were abysmal last season. For Frank Reich to speak that glowingly about Geno Smith with everything that's on the line for him as well, picking Geno Smith as his starting quarterback, shows you what Geno Smith means to this team, man. And I think this offense is going to be a lot better than what people think, man. You guys sound off in the comments, man. Let me know how you feel about everything that you're hearing about Geno Smith, man, and your comfortability level, because sounds like the New York Jets are going to be all right. And we're going to close out with this, man. because this was the thumbnail. Salute to everybody that made it through, and I made sure to save this for everybody that made it through because you are the ones who deserve this. It's all about Garrett Wilson, man. It's all about him. Garrett Wilson, I said this in a video earlier this offseason. I begged and pleaded, can we please get my guy Garrett Wilson some help? Garrett Wilson has been the best player on the Jets since he was drafted. We could talk about Sauce Gardner. I'll be real with y'all. I've never been a big Sauce Gardner fan. I'm going to be perfectly real. I saw the holes in his game. He had a great rookie season, tailed off ever since then. Big Quinnen Williams fan. Good leader, great production, all of that. So if you want to put Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams up here, I get it. Not going to say anything bad about Quinnen Williams. Here's my issue with Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams was traded. When Sauce Gardner was traded, we all saw that text exchange. We all saw that group chat. They didn't want to be here. They didn't. Regardless of the good face they were putting on for the New York Jets organization, they were super happy to be outside of the building and be done with the New York Jets. Garrett Wilson was never one of those people. He's always stood 10 toes down for this organization, going at it with pundits like Stephen A. Smith. Even though he meant well for Garrett Wilson, like, hey, we know you big time. Get out of that abysmal situation. Go somewhere where you can shine. Garrett Wilson's like, nah, I'm cool here. It's gangrene all day. We gonna figure it out. I'm good. So this offseason, I was begging the Jets. This is the guy. You need to get some help. Period. And there's been this argument around Garrett Wilson, which drives me crazy. This argument about where Garrett Wilson ranks with the wide receivers in the NFL drives me crazy, because what people try to do with Garrett Wilson is they try to assess his talent level with his situation, and they use his situation to judge his talent level, which I think is a huge mistake and super disrespectful to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has been able to have 1,000-yard receiver seasons with quarterbacks who wouldn't make it third on the quarterback depth chart. You tell me how that doesn't speak to the talent level of who Garrett Wilson can be if he has a quarterback. Which is why I bring up Geno Smith. Which is why my red flags were going up when I heard when Geno Smith was having these off-field things, and I'm hearing that Geno Smith inconsistent in practice. It had nothing to do with how I felt about Geno Smith. It had everything to do with how I feel about this guy on my right or left, or however you see that. It had everything to do with him. Because if the one guy who deserves to see the Jets succeed and have a productive season is Garrett Wilson, and I think that time is finally now. If Geno Smith can be consistent, not turn the ball over, he has no issues getting Garrett Wilson the ball. Regardless if he's a gunslinger, a risk taker, whatever. He's going to be able to get the ball to Garrett Wilson even when he's covered. So now we can see Garrett Wilson's big play, big catching ability that we know he has. That's one. You take a look at everything on the outside except for Garrett Wilson. He now has A.D. Mitchell, a wide receiver that we had questions about, who's showing explosive ability, amazing route running ability. Now seems like he has no issues catching the ball. You have Omar Cooper, a guy that the Jets traded up to get in the first round, who's a national champion, knows what it's like to win early, who also sounds like he's going to be an absolute stud. We talked about the tight end room. When we're seeing the growth of Mason Taylor, we haven't even seen what Kenyon Sadiq can do. We're talking about Jelani Woods, who, according to Matt O'Leary, is fourth on the depth chart with the tight end position, showing his big play ability as well. We haven't even really talked about Jeremy Ruckert like that. we get into this offensive line where I said, offensive line, going to need to stay healthy for sure. Going to need to stay healthy. Don't want to see the second unit in there at all. But this offensive line has the capability and the potential to be a top 10 offensive line in the league to give Geno Smith. I don't know if y'all saw the preseason game. Geno Smith had a lot of time to throw. Top 10 offensive line in the league. And then we get to the running backs where Breece Hall, who doesn't have to worry about a contract situation over his head. The Jets gave him, what, $16 million? He got his money. The only concern around Breece Hall at this point, and should it be a concern, we saw him run full speed yesterday in practice, is his health. We know who Breece Hall can be when he's healthy and the offensive coordinator knows what the hell to do with him. And now we have Braylon Allen, who's fully healthy and a complete tank, who has big play, touchdown ability himself. It all surrounds him. So when it comes to Garrett Wilson, if he has the help, I'm going to preface this because the comments been driving me crazy. You saying the Jets going to be this, then this, and this. I'm only bringing to y'all what's reported, not what I see, not a prediction, only from what I hear. Could it be fluff, positivity? Maybe. We don't know. But from everything that we're hearing about this Jets offense and this Jets defense, this offensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn now calling the defense, and now all looks like a better situation for this guy, Garrett Wilson. So of all these training camp things that we've learned over the course of training camp, and all the things that we've seen in this preseason from this offense and this defense as well, if all of that is true, we haven't even seen the best of this guy yet. And I expect, as long as everything we've heard and seen is true, for Garrett Wilson to have the best season that he's had in his career and to finally get the damn respect he deserves. Finally. But you guys sound off in the comments, man. Let me know how you felt about today's episode, especially my point when it comes to our guy G5, man. Because if anybody on this Jets organization deserves stability and a showcase who he really is for all the people talking out the side of their face about who he ranks against who and da-da-da-da-da, it's time. It's his time to show the NFL what Garrett Wilson is really all about. And if these pieces are everything that we've heard that they are, I think we'll see that version of Garrett Wilson. So you guys sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'm going to get a couple of comments, and then I'm going to get out of here. Shout out to our guy, Jersey Jet, with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Said they tried to write him off, but he ain't ready to write back yet. Jet up. Oh, let me know who you're talking about. You talking about Geno or you talking about, I'm pretty sure it's about Geno, that right ain't write him back yet. That's about our guy Geno. Hey, salute. I really hope, like, for real. I can't say what I want to say because of, you know, sponsors. But for real, as like, I know people on this channel have heard me be critical about Geno Smith. Like I said, it's all been about Garrett Wilson because I want Garrett Wilson to succeed. I have to raise my red flags. I'm like a protective, like friend, father, all of that. Super protective. But I'm telling y'all, man, this might be a great year for Geno too. Imagine a story that Geno Smith's come back to the team where he kind of created a lot of dysfunction from, even though there was a lot of dysfunction already there. And he had to go on this super journey on his career where he goes to 4 different teams, doesn't even can't sniff the football, can't sniff the football field, goes to the Seahawks, has a pretty good top 10 quarterback type seasons over there. Seahawks didn't believe in him, let him go, won the Super Bowl, goes to the Raiders, worst situation for the quarterback situation as well. The Raiders even know that, still get rid of him. He goes to the New York Jets, who've been void of a quarterback for forever, in the cellar. And Geno Smith leads the New York Jets to the playoffs. Do you know how good of a story that'll be for Geno Smith, man? I'm rooting for Geno Smith. Who wouldn't want to see a story like that? Forget just being a Jets fan, just as a person. Who wouldn't want to see that story play out? So salute to Jersey Jet for the $5 super chat. Yes, they tried to write him off. Seahawks tried to write him off. The Raiders tried to write him off. But now he back home where he belongs. He has a great opportunity to shut everybody the hell up. And I'm hoping that happens this season. Salute to our guy, Jersey Jet, man. Our guy, Danger Zone, is in the building. Said, I wish I could monologue this well. It's all passion, bro. This is what I had in my heart all off season, bro. We've been on the show together. You know how I feel about our guy G5, guy. You know how I feel about our guy G5, man. Want to see him succeed, bro. Tired of the doubt, man. We know the talent level of Garrett Wilson, bro. He better than what they say he is. They really try to slander his name, bro. They really do. And them try to tie his situation into his talent. I never understood it. Because the numbers are there. The tape is damn sure there. It's not like you see him giving up on routes or dropping passes consistently. It's like, what? Like, bro, Zach Wilson. He had 20% of Aaron Rodgers and I'll say 90. I know the math is wrong. He had 20% of Aaron Rodgers' talent and 90% of his ego. Not wanting to throw him the ball and bring it Devontae Adams in here. Wanting the Jets to keep Adam Lazard out of all people. You had Garrett Wilson out there. The disrespect around Garrett Wilson has been crazy. I hope this is the season he shuts everybody up, Danger. I really do, bro. Salute to him for the comment, man. Got our guy Jesse, P85. 80 Mitchell is the perfect Robin. It sounds like it, bro. Remember, the Jets were like, there was rumors that the Jets will go get BTJ, and this wide receiver situation was a little bit meek before the draft. Like, everybody was wondering, damn, the Jets need a number 2. So shout out to 80 Mitchell. Like, 80 Mitchell looks like you said, Jesse, he's the perfect Robin to Garrett Wilson. Perfect. Hopefully when games really start, defensive coordinators really start showing their game plans, when we really get to figure out who this team is and what they can be, hopefully 80 Mitchell is everything that we've heard and everything that we've seen so far. Shout out to our guy Jesse P85 with the comment, man. Let me see anybody else in here that I didn't get. Got our guy, Craig CF Mechanics. Let's go Jets. That's what that says. Let's go Jets with the hearts. Let's get it. Ready for the season. So am I. So am I. And we're going to close out with this comment. Shout out to guy Eric Bonilla. Let's go Jets. You already know what it is, my guy. You already know what it is. My guy JT420 in here with the Jets as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say salute to everybody for tuning in, man. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure I better see all types of Let's Go Jets in the chat. Let everybody know who decided not to tune in on 4 p.m. on Tuesday, what they missed. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share. Let other people know Jets Roundtable is where it's at. We're a real Jets fan who's going to tell you what it really is like. No fluff, no BS. Don't care what anybody says in the comments about what you think, who I like, who I don't like. I don't care. I'm going to give it to you real and raw. Pause, of course, but real and raw. Let them know Jets Roundtable is where it's at. So make sure you hit that share button. And if you are new here, never been here before, first time you've seen this video, like what you saw, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And the season is almost in full effect. If you don't have it, make sure you guys hit that bell icon for notifications so you know when videos like this dropped. And if you tuned in today, pretty sure you realize you can't miss it. But that's going to be it for me. Salute to everybody tuning in that's been rocking with me for 54 minutes deep. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, because you could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with me, and I mean this, and I always will. I appreciate that. Let's go, Jets. Time for us to see what this team really looks like going into the season. And in the words of my guy, Bart Scott, can't wait. See you guys soon, man. Peace.